The co-owner of Bar PM appeared in court today. He is defending himself against misdemeanor charges stemming from an incident when a police SUV crashed into their business.
Tonight, the police chief is facing fresh criticism for how he described the public outcry after that incident. Our political editor, Mark Maxwell, is here with new calls for greater scrutiny of officers involved in car wrecks. Mark.
Ann and Kelly, police faced heavy criticism initially for how much information they shared with the public and how much information they collected in the aftermath of that SUV crash into the front of Bar PM. But Chief Tracy only yesterday answered the second half of those questions. More than 7 weeks after a police SUV crashed into Bar PM,
it wasn't intentional. It was an accident.
Chief Robert Tracy answered questions about what his officers investigated in the aftermath and what they didn't.
These officers, if this accident happened down the street and didn't happen at an LGBTQIA plus bar, which drew some attention because there was an arrest afterwards, no one would be calling for a toxicology test or a drug test or an alcohol test on our officers.
As a black gay man, I find that a little offensive.
Alderman Rasheen Aldridge called the chief's remarks insensitive and called for him to apologize, and said he and other members of the board are considering ways to require officers involved in wrecks to undergo sobriety tests. The responding officers, who might have conducted those tests, were otherwise preoccupied arresting bar owner Chad Morris.
Anytime a city-owned vehicle or a city employee is involved in a vehicle accident, they should be drug tested and sobriety checked. It happens in any other workplace.
It's a city policy and it's police department policy.
Tracy claimed the rights that protect civilians from criminal prosecution also shield officers on the job, with one key caveat.
And I have to follow policy. Why would I change policy and make an exception here? These officers have due process. And the officers on the scene and the supervisors, if they felt that there was a problem or they were under the influence, they have the authority then to call for a sobriety test under reasonable suspicion. And I would back them if they did that.
He wasn't wearing a badge that night, but at least one person on scene did have reasonable suspicion.
I think that people would care if a police officer or a city vehicle drove into their house. I believe they would care.
Yeah.
I just think it should be common practice.
We're told several members of the Board of Aldermen are now looking at ways to adopt an ordinance and require officers to undergo sobriety tests anytime they might crash a city-owned vehicle.